Good morning. Obviously, from the small amount of gray hair, but not all the gray hair, I am not David Mack today. Make sure I tell David that when I see him the next time. But we have a limited group with us today because Vinny and I are the only ones who could not afford to go on vacation during President's Week, so we're here in that regard, and we welcome all the rest of you here. So we're going to start the Long Island Committee meeting today. Are there any public speakers? There are no public speakers. Okay. We have the approval of the minutes from January 21st. Any problems in that regard? Okay, we move the minutes approved. And then we're going to start with Long Island Bus. And we have a substitute provider today. Norm.
Hope everyone can hear me. I'm Norm Silverman, Vice President Operations Planning for MTA Bus, Long Island Bus, and I'm here substituting for Joe Smith. Good morning, Chairman Mack and members of the Long Island Committee. I'm sorry Chairman Mack is not here. Good morning, Mr. Taylor. I would ask that the members of the committee approve the minutes of the previous Long Island Bus Committee meeting that was held on January 21st.
We've already done that?
Yep.
Go right ahead.
In the operations report, overall bus performance was rather strong in December. The AM and PM pullout performance were both 100% for this month and, of course, met our goal of 100%. The 12-month average for AM and PM pullouts was also at the 100% level, and we completed 99.6% of our trips in December and 99.58% of the trips over the last 12 months. So we were having a good performance situation for the last 12 months. Mean distance between failure, an acronym that we use, MDBF, was 1,908 miles in December, 11.9% lower than the December 07 figure of 2,167 miles. The 12-month average MDBF is improved for 2008 by 2.6% over a year ago. The annual goal for 2008 was 2,200 miles. The 2008 MDBF goal was based, however, on the expected delivery of new buses in 2008, and as you know, that delivery did not occur. We've had some problems with Bus Industries of America and the delivery of the bus. The pilot bus had some operating problems, which we sent back. The pilot bus is now returned. Hopefully those problems are remedied, and we will report back to you by next month on the delivery of those buses. We do expect that once the latest problems are remedied, the delivery will start rather expeditiously.
Good. Thank you.
Safety trends for December are also good. The bus collisions per 1,000 miles in 2008 improved by 2.4% when compared to 2007. In 27, the rate was 3.33 and 3.25 in 2008. That was the 2.4% improvement. The employee on-duty lost time accident improved by 46.5% from 27, a significant improvement. It was 4.93 in 27 and 2.64 in 2008. Fixed route ridership showed a decrease in ridership for the month, but an overall increase for the 12-month period. The average weekday ridership for December decreased by 1.9%, and weekend ridership decreased by 6.4% when compared to December 2007. On a calendar basis, between 2008 and 2007, weekday ridership overall increased by 1.5%, and average weekend ridership increased by 0.9%, nearly 1%. Paratransit ridership continues its growth at 7.4% over 2007 levels. I'll continue with the finance report. Our fixed route fare box revenue in 2008 was $41.2 million, or 0.5% above our last budgeted estimate. Paratransit fare box revenue in 2008 was $1.1 million, or 6% over our budgeted estimate. And actual expenses before non-cash adjustments were higher than the final estimate by $3.6 million because of a required increase of $4 million in reserves for workers' compensation. This was established by the actuaries and was a requirement that was mandated upon us. We do not have any procurement or action items for your approval this month, so we can move to information and work plan items. We have two information items for this month: the February financial plan for 09 through 012, and a small service revision to the N15 route. First, with respect to the financial plan, the attached plan includes all administrative savings, PEG items, alternative actions to achieve budget balance, and the additional actions unique to LI Bus that may be necessary to achieve budget balance. The 08 final estimate, the 09 adopted budget, and the financial plan for 09 through 012 are included. The adopted budget includes gap closing actions that were presented below the line in the financial plan that were adopted by the board in December 08. Additional actions to achieve budget balance are shown as discrete line items. As the committee is aware, this financial plan includes higher base fare for both fixed route and paratransit services, coupled with fixed route streamlining and service reductions. Other targeted reductions include cost benefits to be derived from jointly purchasing compressed natural gas that's part of a regional bus perspective from alternative energy suppliers. Unfortunately, to date, there's been no indication that Nassau County will be increasing their subsidy or that the subsidy from the MTA will be restored to the level that we had previously. Obviously, as with all the members of the MTA family, we hope that the Ravage plan is adopted and that many of these extreme measures can be avoided so we can get back on the road to carrying more people. Another item, the second item for committee information is a minor service change on the N15. This is basically continuing an effort that we've been doing to streamline the services in and out of Roosevelt Field, an area that's busy in terms of customer business for us and also heavily trafficked. Under the new plan, the N15 would use access Roosevelt Field from the west rather than going in and out the east side of Roosevelt Field. This builds upon similar changes we made recently on 3 other routes, and this change will allow a faster and more direct service to the mall, will save us $50,000 and improve reliability on the N15 route, which runs all the way from Roosevelt Field to Long Beach. This concludes my remarks on the committee agenda, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may all have.
Any questions? Good, thank you, Norm. We look forward to your report or Joe's report next month on the bus situation. That's obviously a very important part of the committee's responsibility, is to ensure that the new buses that we have been expecting to come actually are there and can provide the service the customers of Long Island Bus deserve. And it's been I know, a long haul, but you obviously don't want to accept something that doesn't work the way we want it to work from the beginning, so we're hopeful that this month we'll be able to do that in that regard. So we look forward to that report next month.
Understood. We'll have it for you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Long Island Railroad. Elena.
Good morning, Commissioner, and I'd like to say good morning to the Chairman. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Before we begin our regular agenda, I would like to address a significant event. There has been, substantial media coverage on it, so you are probably aware. On February 13th, 2009, at approximately 8:57 a.m., passenger train 1612 struck a vehicle at the Robbins Lane grade crossing on the Port Jefferson branch in Syosset. Train 1612 is a regularly scheduled eastbound passenger train. It originates in Penn Station with a destination of Huntington. The incident train was carrying approximately 150 passengers and 5 crew members. An automobile with a single occupant was heading southbound on the Robbins Lane road when the vehicle and train collision occurred. This is a very unfortunate fatality at the grade crossing. And as you are all aware, we work very hard to protect grade crossings, have grade crossing safety measures in place. So this is an ongoing police investigation at this time. The police have been canvassing the area. They were out again this morning for witnesses. We did have a number of witnesses who came forward on Friday and over the weekend, and we appreciate that very much when the public responds. And we want to, of course, thank the police for being very thorough in its investigation. Because it's an ongoing investigative matter, I just want to preliminarily update the committee and say that The police will conduct its investigation. There will be an ongoing safety investigation by the Long Island Railroad. We are working in conjunction with the FRA, Federal Railway Administration, and the Public Transportation Safety Board, which is a division of DOT. There will be a coordinated investigation on all of the events. Now, we do have significant data available to us. There are event recorders on the train, equipment. This was MU-7 equipment. We have event recorders on the gate, and we have data with regard to third track power. And all of that data will allow us to put together a timeline to reconstruct the events. As you may have read in the media reports, and we did, indicate this on Friday in a statement to the press, the preliminary data indicates that the gate was in the horizontal position as the train was approaching. There is evidence in the data that the gate moved in an upward position for about 2.5 seconds and then downward again to the horizontal position for about 2.5 seconds, and that the gate was functioning properly as the train went through the grade crossing. We will be assembling all of the data and do a thorough investigation with the PTSB and the FRA, and we'll further update this committee.
Thank you, Alina. We look forward to the comprehensive report, not only by the railroad, but by the federal and state agencies involved, and by MTA Police in this matter. It's obviously a situation which we never want to have happen. We hope never happens again. We are to some degree dependent upon the equipment which is there, and the ability of the public to understand the danger of grade crossings. I mean, Long Island is littered with grade crossings, unfortunately. And, it's our responsibility, our railroad responsibility, to make sure that the people of Long Island and in Metro North's situation also understand that these are dangerous situations, and we have to make sure that they understand the safety needs that they have to provide and we have to provide there. So we look forward to the report. And hope, if there are any recommendations, I'm sure from the federal or state agencies, I'm sure this committee will evaluate them with you and implement whatever anybody else believes we could do to make them safer than they already are in that regard. And our condolences from the entire MTA family go out to the family of the deceased. It's a very unfortunate situation. Anything further? Okay.
Thank you very much. At this time, we are going to go to our regular agenda, and we don't have a work plan item this month. We do have our financial report. Before Mark gives that, I do want to just address ridership for a moment, as we have some numbers on our 2008 ridership levels. Last year, I indicated that I had asked staff to conduct extensive surveys of onboard ticket receipts to assess whether two factors we use to make the calculation on ridership should be updated to account for more recent ridership trends. These two factors are the proportion of onboard sales that are off-peak versus peak and the average yield per ticket. In response to my request, our Comptroller's Office completed two surveys during 2008 in May and October. In each case, all onboard ticket receipts for every day of the month were reviewed. The conclusion drawn was that more often than in the past, onboard sales are occurring during peak period. In addition, due to fare increases and changes in the onboard sale policy, the average yield per ticket has increased. But it was important for us to assess whether the yield per ticket, reflected just one customer as opposed to just an increase in revenue. And we are now going to use the data that we got for those 2 months and restate, based on, the extrapolation of that data, our 2008 ridership numbers. With all final reporting and as we go forward in 2009, we'll do a comparison to the restated number. The final total number of riders for 2008, again, these are estimates based on, the data collected, 87.4 million. It is slightly less than what you see in the book. But it's a conservative adjustment, and it's based on, this increased data collection and review. And again, I will say it is the highest ridership since 1949. Of course, as we are in this economic downturn, it is extremely important for us to continue to monitor ridership, match service levels to ridership, and to ensure that we are accurate, as accurate as we can be in reporting on it. And with that, I'm going to turn to Mark.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll start with this is the first month where we can report preliminary numbers for 2009. As you know, that's our practice here at the Long Island Committee. And as I'm sure you might expect, the January 2009 performance wasn't good compared to the prior year. We transported an estimated 6.6 million riders in January, which, when you adjust for one less workday this year than last year, is down 4% from 2008. And it's both on commutation and non-commutation. On the commutation side, when you adjust for one less workday this year compared to last year, it's down 3.6%. And on non-commutation, we were down 4.7%. Which was on the non-commutation side, as you recall. That's now the fifth consecutive month we've seen a decline in that category. And all ticket sales on the non-commutation side were down, other than the 10-trip senior ticket, the 10-trip off-peak tickets, and leisure travel. For any questions on ridership just for the first month?
No, obviously we're being affected as well as everyone else is being affected by the economic downturn, the reduction in jobs in New York City, which we transport obviously a disproportionate share of Long Islanders who live on Long Island and work in New York City, and that is obviously having an effect on the commutation numbers. And the price of gas going down, and the economy, I'm sure, had a little effect on the non-commutation numbers. People go back to the way that it used to be. So, I mean, these are numbers that obviously are going to have to be watched very carefully in the months ahead to see what other impacts they will have on the service opportunities and service adjustments necessary. And it's unfortunate, but it is the way it is at the moment.
If there is a good news or a positive side of it, at least we know that in the 2009 budget, we did adjust our ridership and revenue projections to account for a potential decline in the economy. So we'll be watching that very closely. Hopefully we were conservative enough, and I'm sure many of the other MTA agencies are experiencing the same situation. With that having been said, the book does include the final financial report for 2008, which actually was a very strong year financially for the Long Island Railroad. We collected or generated $751 million in total revenue, which was $27 million better than the adopted budget and $3.3 million better than our final estimate. The biggest factors there were, again, although now we're talking about declining ridership, if you recall, earlier in 2008 we had been doing quite well. So we outperformed the fare box revenue target. In addition, we received, due to increased capital project activity, we did generate additional capital revenue reimbursement for the year. On expenses, we had a $45 billion favorable variance versus the adopted budget and 2.9 favorable versus the final estimate. Labor costs were within 0.1% of the original adopted budget, which was, obviously very close to the original estimate. On the non-labor side, we were $46 million favorable to budget. Original budget, which included surpluses on power, some contractual services, and materials and supplies. All of these numbers, as is typical every year, all of these numbers are audited by the Deloitte & Touche, who are outside financial auditors, and we'll be releasing our final statements in a few months. The year-end fare box ratio was 45.2%, which was 0.9% better than the final estimate for many of the reasons I just explained. And that concludes the financial report.
The difficulty we're going to have is for 09, we're going to be comparing them to 08, which was the best year the railroad had in 60 years. So it's not a question of comparing it to a normal railroad year. It's comparing it to the best year in ridership the railroad has had in 60 years, which obviously came through a confluence of events, many of which we can control and some of which the railroad cannot control in that regard. So we're just going to have to see how that all plays out in that regard. But it's going to be 2009 is going to be a very interesting year. With an understatement.
That might be a little bit of an understatement.
Yes.
I mean, we are all anxious, I think, to see, the economy grow again and a return to jobs. And of course, jobs, are our main bread and butter. Those are our commuters who go to work every day. So we'll be watching closely the impact on Long Island.
And one of the difficulties is that we just went through a situation where everybody assumed the stimulus package was going to save everybody, and for the Long Island Railroad, it didn't do much. Or for Long Island Bus, there's no federal operating assistance in the stimulus package at all, which leaves the fare and service adjustment decisions to the governor and the New York State Legislature on their own, because there was no federal money, and the amount of capital money for the MTA in total was very small, which means that our piece of it will be smaller than the piece that MTA gets, and that's also unfortunate in that regard. So it's a confluence of events that's going to come to some kind of decision, obviously, in the next 6 weeks by the governor and the state legislature, and then we'll know what it is we all have to do that we all don't want to do in that regard.
Well, Commissioner, we appreciate your actions as a board member and those of the other board members who are advocating for adoption of the Ravitch proposals. We know that you personally have been very active in seeking support for those proposals because we think that is the long-term solution for the MTA and, of course, the Long Island Railroad.
And the board is going again to Albany Tuesday.
Oh, terrific.
Tuesday,
Good.
we're going
Good.
back. I'm looking forward with it immensely. We're all going back.
And with that, we're going to turn to Ray Kenny, Senior VP of Ops, for our operating report.
Good morning, everyone. The operating report for January 2009 starts on page number 27. And the on-time performance for January was 96.11%. And that is the second best January on record in the 31 years of using the current methodology, and it is also the third best month of any month since we've been keeping those type of records. The AM OTP was 95.99%, the PM was 93.03%, and the off-peak was 96.67%, which is the second best off-peak performance of any month on record. We had 3 100% rush hours in January, 2 in the morning and 1 in the PM. The morning car availability was met every day, and our MBDF exceeded the goal of 100,000 miles for the month. During January, we had about 9 inches of snow, but it was incremental, and that's about 1 inch above average. Did not have much of an effect. The extreme cold weather had more of an effect. We ran about 4.2 degrees below normal. The major event of the month in terms of on-time performance was the effect on service caused by the New York and Atlantic derailment east of Deer Park that happened on January 8th. That caused 69 late trains over a 2-day period. That included 31 canceled and partially canceled. The cause was a human factor on the part of a New York and Atlantic employee. And we have started a safety process review that was briefly touched upon by Helena at the last meeting. And in that process, we're working with New York and Atlantic and FRA and Long Island Railroad personnel. The effect of the derailment on our customers was mitigated by the assistance provided by the MTA police in terms of controlling the scene, helping with the investigation, helping us to move heavy equipment over highways, coordinating the emergency response, and helping with the busing of our customers. That's the operating report for January, and if there are any questions.
No? Thank you.
Thank you for that report, and now we're going to turn to Chief Kathleen Finneran, MTA Police Report.
Good morning. The crime report is located on page 46. For the month of January, I need to report that we did have a slight increase in the reportable felonies, but in these cases, arrests have been made in 4 of the 5 assault cases, in 1 of the 2 robberies, and in 1 of the larceny cases. The open cases we're continuing investigating, and hopefully we'll have more arrests forthcoming. Also, as Mr. Kenny stated, the MTA police responded to the derailment out in Deer Park, and I must say we utilized all our units. Patrol responded for grade crossing protection, crowd control. Highway unit was used for our escorts. Emergency service helped at the site, and our detectives were doing the investigation. So it was all hands on and very successful. If any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much and thank all the members of the police department for their tremendous assistance in that regard.
I will. Thank you.
Things happen, and sometimes it's not the fact that it happens, it's what happens after it happens that is the most important with regard to our customers, and that's why making sure that they are the least amount inconvenienced. They're obviously going to be inconvenienced to some degree, but the least amount of inconvenience is what is important, and that was obviously what happened in this situation. I think everybody should be congratulated in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to turn to Kevin Tomlinson, who will give the capital program report.
Good morning. The capital program highlights are on page 48 and include 3 milestones. First, the completion of the vital microprocessing systems designed for J, Hall, and Dunn interlockings. Second, the replacement of over 28,000 feet of third rail cable at various locations along our system. And finally, the completion of the eastern half of Seaford Station, which is a 12-car Center Island platform. The standard project updates on the Central Islip Police Facility, Atlantic Avenue Viaduct, East Side Access, Atlantic Terminal, and the mainline corridor improvements are found on page 49 of your book. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Now, every time I'm in Penn Station, I hear about the Seaford Station West platform not being open. If I've heard that once, I've heard it 100 times every time I'm there. So that's the next phase of it, I assume.
Correct. We'll be done in July of this coming year with the western half of the station. It'll be open for beneficial use at that time.
Thank you.
We have a couple of information items. They start on page 52 in the book. The spring construction schedule is there. There's a staff summary that outlines the service impacts from this construction work, this track work. Track resurfacing at the Valley interlocking, will impact train schedules on 4 consecutive weekends beginning March 7th and 8th through the weekend of March 28th, 29th. The work is necessary to prepare for a major signal cutover project, which is scheduled in the fall. And as you know, the Valley interlocking is a key switching location in Valley Stream that sorts trains to and from the Far Rockaway branch, Long Beach, Babylon, West Hempstead, and Montauk branches. So that is a very key and central location that we've identified in our capital program for a major upgrade in technology. This is part of the railroad's effort to move forward with modernization of its switches and its infrastructure. So this is a 2-phase project with all the prep work being done in the spring and the major cutover to be done in the fall. The service impacts associated with this resurfacing project are outlined in the staff summary. As Mark mentioned, we also included in the information item the final estimate and adopted budget for 2009. And I'm delighted to also draw your attention on page 80 to an information item. It's the 2008 Long Island Railroad Customer Satisfaction Survey results. As you will note from the materials enclosed in the book, we adopted a new survey instrument after meeting with Metro North. The two railroads decided that we wanted to have a similar survey instrument, and we adopted Metro North's approach. I do have to say that I think it did give us some really terrific results from our customers. We want to thank our customers very much who completed the survey. And as you'll note in the top 10 ratings, the highest rating went to crew courtesy. And we were very proud of that. I'd like to compliment all of our train crews for the exceptional job they do. They're very professional and courteous and try very hard to assist customers and keep a very an even-tempered and professional approach to any type of fare questions that arise, any type of conflicts between customers. Our train crews really handle a wide variety of activity that occurs on trains. So this rating was extremely important to us, as, of course, onboard safety, which was a 94% rating. We do note that overall satisfaction was 89%, and I come from the school that says, you know, if you can get 89, why can't you get 90, as I've always said to my kids while they're in school. So we are going to work very hard to push that rating up and try to break into the 90 and above. And, of course, I want to point out one of the most important factors to all our customers, on-time performance. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, I'm going to go to procurements.
No. Go right ahead.
Okay, and procurement start on page 82 in the book. There are 6 procurement actions included in this month's package, totaling $1.97 million. There are 3 items in the non-competitive section, totaling $648,000, and I ask for a vote on those non-competitive procurements.
Any issues? I move them.
Second.
All approved.
There are 2 items in the competitive section totaling $519,000, and one of them I'm going to point out. It's a contract for drainage ditching along Long Island Railroad's right-of-way from Spionk to Long Island Railroad's Montauk Yard. You know, this is exceptionally important for us in terms of ensuring that we have the proper drainage in place. And we ask for a vote on that item.
Any issues? All approved.
And there is one item requiring ratification this month in the amount of $800,000. We request board ratification of a contract modification to a contract with Russell Reed. It extends the term of the contract by 84 days through April 30th, and we add funding, and that's to allow time to complete an assessment of the current apparent low bidder. We did a bid process, and we're still evaluating the results. It's an important contract that we have to continue in place because it's for toilet servicing of vehicles and carts. So we request your approval of the ratification.
So move. Any questions? All approved.
And in this procurement package, there's also the fourth quarter inventory report. And with that, that concludes the Long Island Railroad's presentation.
Anything else?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned. We'll see you next month. Thank you.